Thank you very much for your patience. Welcome to our very last segment. And in the last segment, we'll look at more or less a summary. And we're going to summarize this just using two slides. The first slide is on the victorious Lamb. Unfortunately, because we haven't got time, these two passages come from the most difficult book of the New Testament, the book of Revelation. The second one is probably one of the nicer bits of the New Testament, or rather of Revelation, where the victorious Jesus proclaims to have brought about a new heaven and a new earth. Let's begin with victorious Lamb. I think in some way we have gone full circle because we began with John the Baptist, who says, "Look, there goes the Lamb of God." And we discovered so many reasons why none of us would have chosen Lamb as a title for Jesus. We would have preferred the good old lion. But the Lamb is the one that actually becomes victorious. Now, as you can see on my slide there, I have a stained glass window. Now, I need to indicate where that comes from. Otherwise, if they find out I'm not acknowledging, I might get into trouble. So, the text basically comes from Revelation chapter 5. Here is a stained glass window. Now, just what can you tell from the stained glass window? What is there, or what does it mean? Obviously, they are telling us something a little bit more. Anyone? Yes?
It's the title of, like, the Lamb has conquered.
It is the title, okay? But if, for instance, you didn't come to today's lecture and you saw that stained glass window, what sort of things might you be able to say about what you see, the image? Yes?
The Lamb is in England. The English flag says that conquered and has come to England as well. So the message has been passed on.
I think that's a good thought. I never thought of England when I was putting this up. But just generally speaking, what's the connection between the flag and the cross and the Lamb?
Jesus.
Jesus, the Lamb of God, what does he do?
Conquers death.
He conquered death through the cross, and therefore becomes what? What's the flag?
Glorified.
A king.
King, sort of leader. So you have here all the symbols put together. This one comes from a stained glass window in Trinity Moravian Church in North Carolina. It's the Moravian Church, and this is their sort of motto or logo, which I told you at the beginning was originally given in Latin, Vicit Agnus Noster. Our Lamb has conquered, and therefore they have added the other Latin bit, Eum Sequamu, let us follow him. Now, in the book of Revelation chapter 5, we have this vision that John had, in which all the living creatures and everybody proclaim that the Lamb is now king. So that's where this image comes from. The last image we are going to look at is where Jesus proclaims to have brought about a new heaven and a new earth. Now, what I'll do here is, first of all, can anybody sort of hazard an explanation as to what most people think when they read Revelation chapter 21, verse 4, and says, "Behold, I bring about a new heaven and a new earth." In terms of the timing, when is this new heaven and new earth going to come about? How do most people interpret this? Do they interpret that it was happening at the time this was written, or at another time? Any
in the future.
It's very much in the future. I think most people tend to interpret this in a very futuristic sense. What I'm suggesting, and this is where the paradox lies, and this is where the challenge lies, that this is not about the future, it's about now. Because in Revelation chapter 21, the visionary sees the new Jerusalem coming out of heaven and coming here on earth. He doesn't say in future it will come down. It has come down. And then one of those who are observing says, look, the God is now dwelling amongst human beings. What this means for me is that accepting the politics of Jesus, accepting that Jesus is the Messiah, Jesus is the King, is also accepting that the new heaven and the new earth has started in the here and now. Obviously, it will be fully realized in the future. And to sum up, I just say a new heaven and a new earth are, for me, metaphors or symbols for everything. Everything has to go through a process of renewal or transformation. And therefore, contrary to popular interpretation, I'm not thinking of this in the future. I'm thinking of now. Probably the fulfillment is somewhere in the future, but the transformation has to start now. The little bit of Greek that you see there simply helps me to argue that in Greek there are two words for new. The first one is neos, from which we get the English word new. Now, neos, when the Greeks use it, it's new in point of time. It's new rather than old. But there is another word which they use in the New Testament, kaine. And kaine stands for new in terms of nature. There is a different quality about this. That's the newness of the new heaven and new earth. The only way I can sum up what the author of Revelation is saying is another text which uses the new heavens and the new earth, and it's 2 Peter chapter 3 verse 13. For him, a new heaven and a new earth is a state, is a situation. It's not a point in time, it's a state in which the righteousness of God is at home. Look, God is dwelling with human beings. So for me, that's the new heavens and the new earth. If wherever we are, if in whatever situation we are trying to realize God's reign, God's kingship, Jesus' messiahship in us, that's the new heavens and the new earth starting. Any thoughts, questions? Everything clear, straightforward?
Yeah.
So shall we leave it at that for today, and thank you very much for a very active participation. And cut.